Hello and welcome to another installment of the Friendly Differences podcast. Tonight we talked about COVID. It's been a show that we've been dying to do just to get it out of the way with. I'm sure everyone's sick of hearing it, but it has to be spoken about. And we had Matt from Whatkast, who is someone that I've been, friends with online for over a year now. I've been on his show a couple of times, and it was a really great show. So, Solid, how do you feel it went?
I think it went really well. Whatkast was a really great guest. He was fun. And I think that, we were all able to get our opinions out. And, it was great having Michael Key come on or join us later. But I think it was a good show. And I'm also happy that we had people who joined us from Facebook and from YouTube. Didn't have anybody from Twitch this time. So people, please go to Twitch. But I'm glad that we were able to have those chat onto the show,
Yeah.
and we were able to
Yeah.
address everyone's comments.
Yeah, because I think our first couple of shows, we had 6 on in the first show and then 5, and we felt that, it could be nice to have people having more time because we want to limit the shows to an hour and a half, even though this one I think was an hour and 45. But it gives people more of a chance to say their opinions. We can go around the room more. So I think maybe having 3, maximum of 4, and then it also gives us those 2 extra spaces to invite people on at the end if they want to come on and throw up a comment or something. I think that's a good thing to have. So it was good of Michael to join us tonight. And anyone, if you've got a phone, I'm sure these days the cameras and the microphones, and you don't have to be on the screen. You can hide your face. We're okay with all that, especially when it's the political stuff. But yeah, I really enjoyed tonight. It was a good chat, and I'm excited for the next one. Which do you want to pick the next one since I picked COVID?
Yeah, I would really like to do white fragility or BLM or and I also want to do hate crimes. But
I feel only introduction there is we did do friendly freedom of speech, so we could maybe save that one for further. I am good.
right,
I am
right.
good
So
with
yeah.
doing it. Yeah.
But for hate crimes, there are particular guests that I would like to get. So we haven't really nailed those people down yet. So that's going to be further down. But for either BLM or white fragility or both. I mean, I don't know. Can we combine both of them in the same show or?
I don't know. We'll see. I'm sure we could. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, I have a couple of people I would like to ask for both shows. And I like the fact, one thing that I liked about Whatkast is the fact that, again, we're getting people from the UK. You're from the UK, and I would like to have people from the UK come on because it's not just about America. It's about the entire world. It's about everybody. So, if we can, reach out to people from the UK, or even I'm gonna say the word China, just from everywhere. I just want people to know that this is not just, about one particular place or one particular group, that, we want to reach out to everyone. As long as you're respectful. If you're not respectful, you can't come on.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I think the only thing to say is please follow us on the social medias. We're on Facebook at Friendly Differences Podcast. We're on Instagram, friendly_differences_pod or podcast. And we're also on Twitch, but obviously Twitch is just for the streaming. So yeah, just, I think it's...
And we will be on Twitter pretty soon. So
yeah,
you have to get Twitter.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think the hardest thing about starting up a new show is the advertisement that we're going to be live on Saturday at 8 o'clock in the UK, and getting that message out there is quite difficult. We need obviously people to share our message, and we are just starting off, so it'll come.
Yeah. And also next week, look for our pre-recorded chat with Chill Will. And we'll have some more of those coming, as well as some more chats between me and my co-host Bob, because we disagree about a lot of stuff. So, and you all should hear some of the messages that go back and forth between us. So yeah, yeah.
Yeah, the one with Chilwell we'll upload next weekend, because we're going to do these shows every 2 weeks and maybe have a filler show where, I mean, we already asked Whatkast in the post show there if he'd like to come on and have the three of us just have a chat about life in general, about anything in particular. So we're going to probably use the middle week to throw out a filler episode for you guys to keep our show out there. So thanks again, guys, for listening. Please feel free to share the show, follow us. Also follow us on our main Solid Blue Sister show, Podbean, Monday to Thursday, 9 p.m. UK time. You take over for that.
And yours, Monday through Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific time. And that's California time. If anyone doesn't know what Pacific time is, that's the West Coast time. So if you're not sure, go to your phone and use your world clock like I always do, and you know what time it is wherever you want to know. So.
Yeah. And then I started my own Podbean show on Thursday there, my very first one. I feel it went well. It is uploaded to Podbean and to Anchor, Spotify. So it's something that I'm going to have to get better at, because, the whole live stuff I'm not the best at. So
you need to go on Apple. You need to go on Apple.
Yeah, for the Baram you listeners, usually I'm pre-recorded, so you guys will know. So thanks again, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
No.
Okay, we are live.
Got it there.
Hi, guys. Welcome to the Friendly Differences podcast. Tonight we have the subject that's on everyone's tongue for the last couple of years, and we're just really excited to talk about it. We have Whatkast, that I'm sure you're familiar with if you've listened to my show and follow me on Instagram. Matt from Whatkast has been, an inspiration for me. He's on the ball. I keep saying it, like, this is where I let myself down. But me and Matt's done a couple of shows together, and I'm so thankful for him to come on tonight, because it's been a real joy to listen to Matt's rants on COVID and on the masks.
You suggested
over the last couple of years, because I feel that kind of stuff is where most people learn. I certainly do, because it's okay to sit and listen to our politicians, use big fancy words and things. And I'm not saying Matt's not, but when you hear it from like that comedic, like a George Carlin, I've told him that before, like George Carlin's comedy was very good, because it also, it got, you learned a lot while you were laughing, and it kind of sticks in that way. So, we're excited to have Matt, and then obviously I'll pass you over to Solid, who is, everyone knows where I stand on COVID, and Matt, you'll soon find out his stances. And, we're hoping also Solid can hold their own, but if anyone in the chat tonight wants to, jump up and call in, or the comment section could be something that we'll utilize tonight. But Solid's, going to put up a good fight.
Well, what you were about to say, and I would like to say hello to Michael Key. I see he is listening on YouTube. Thank you, Michael. You were going to say, unfortunately, I am a vaxxer and I believe in masks. That's what you were going to say. But hey, that's okay. I can hold on. Okay, so Whatkast, welcome. I have listened to your podcast. You had me laughing, and it was and interesting podcast. And I will be someone who will be following you and I will be listening. So, with that note, I will pass it back over to Bob. You are taking the lead today. So,
well, just let Matt introduce himself and tell the listeners where they can find him and all that.
Yeah, I'm Matt. I do Whatkast. I'm set in the main streets of Essex in England, and which they're not that mean. They used to be, but we just pretend and play it up to kind of laugh at ourselves a little bit. But yeah, we do a podcast, goes out every Sunday. Usually Conspiracy Lee joins me. We have lots of guests on as well, different topics. Lee's kind of like Conspiracy Lee, I call him, but he's become less conspiratorial as the show's gone on, and I've become more conspiratorial. I was complete skeptic at the beginning. It's kind of weird. We've sort of met in the middle, but we cover all these different topics as far as like we even do Loch Ness Monster and aliens, and which Ian doesn't believe in, and other stuff. You know, anything unexplained mysteries. We've even done true crime on a couple of times and things like that. We do anything. That's basically the idea, is that anything that makes you say what, or even like a sarcastic what, like kind of noise that we make when we do the podcast. Also do the daily what, not so regularly anymore, but that's just more like kind of political. Done a lot of COVID stuff on there over the last couple of years. Well, we've been going for 2 years now. So yeah, anyway, you could find us at Whatkast on any social medias, and we'll get into other stuff as the show goes on.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. So to start the chat, let's just give an opening brief statement as to what you believe since COVID began, before it began even, and what your stance is on, because I kind of want to stick to your beliefs on wearing masks, your beliefs on mandates in general, and, you know, that mask and vaccine. And yeah, so we'll just go from there. If you want to start, Solid.
Well, I do believe in vaccines. I do believe in masks. I do wear them. I have been vaxxed and boosted. When mandates first came out, I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, we need to do this. But as it went along, it got to the point where, for me, people were just getting so nasty on both sides. You know, you had one person screaming over here, the other person over here. So my whole thing was, you know, I would like to go to the store or go to the market and be able to shop without somebody coming up to me, like someone has done many times, saying, why are you wearing a mask? Take it off, whatever. And my response is always, you do me, I'll do you, I'll do me, you do you, which translates into, you mind your business and I'll mind mine, you know, which usually kind of pissed them off. But on the other hand, I saw people who were wearing masks who would go up to people saying, you need to put on a mask. So before the vaccines came out and everything in 2020, when everybody was screaming, howling, oh my God, COVID, you know, whatever, I was just like, I'm just going to put on my mask. I'm going to stay away from people who don't have one on, you know, whatever. And that's it. And my world has been fine, you know, but when I look around, it's just that it's just gotten so politicized. And I just say one person, he made this whole thing on a political level. Because if you look back, you have polio, you have measles, you have rubella, you have all these other things where you got shots and jabs and everything. And you send your kid to school, at least here, kindergarten, they have to have their vaccines for various things. You go to college, you want to live in the dorm, you have to be, you know, shots and, you know, you have to have everything. It wasn't an issue. All of a sudden, COVID came up and it became a political thing. And that's where I think the issue started. So I don't think it's so much that people are anti-vax or they are vaxxers. It's the fact that if we take the politics out, I think things would be a lot better.
Awesome. Okay, Matt.
Right. I've had kind of like, let me just put it this way, right? So as far as COVID's concerned, for the last, when was it, March 2020, I was as on board as you could probably get with this. I've got close people, close family that would have been called vulnerable. And and the way that it was I was led to believe on TV. I totally agree with what Solid just said, by the way, about the you do you, I'll do me. I do agree with that. That's been a big problem with all of this, and just do your own thing. So I'm never, especially because I'm on the tube with you, I'm never going to tell anyone what they should be doing, right? Because we will get taken down. But so yeah, for the first couple of months, I was that person. I was at work, and people talking to me. I was like, stand 2 meters. Like, what you doing? What you're in my face and all this kind of stuff in it. And there was actually a guy that I work with that went down with COVID. I didn't know anybody. Like, we was all kind of not laughing at it, but kind of saying like they was telling us it was for old people should be concerned, very vulnerable people should be concerned. For everyone else, it's a very low chance of anything happening to you. So no one was really taking it seriously. Then a guy that was like late 40s was hospitalised with COVID and ended up ventilated. Ended up on a ventilator for about 4 months. Someone that I worked directly with, that I was working with on his last shift, right next to him for the entire time. So I was like, shit, you know, he's got COVID and this looks quite dangerous. He's only just literally come back to work, like, which was quite miraculous, really, because we all just wrote him off like he was definitely going to die. And I had a chat with him today, actually, about it. And he's, from his experience, it's like, because there was such full PPE and stuff in the hospital, he honestly believed like that it was the Walking Dead outside. Like he couldn't, like, because it had affected him so badly. And every time he opened his eyes briefly, he was seeing people in like hazmat suits and and all these people. He thought, I wonder who's dead out there. Like, I wonder what I've had a lucky escape, not realizing he was in a massive minority. So from that point of view, I completely understand people's concerns. As time's gone on, the way information was kept back. As things happen, obviously cases, yeah, they went up and down and whatnot. But what's actually happened was, as far as to make it like personal from my point of view, my sister was at metastatic breast cancer, and they completely stopped her chemo for COVID. And things like that is what made me kind of start to think. And she unfortunately died in July 2020 because they stopped her chemo. So like for me, it's like you're seriously putting COVID, like what we know about it now, summer 2022, like 2020, you're seriously putting COVID like it's a bigger threat to life than cancer, than late stage. She was terminal, but they told her she could have had 10 years. She's a 10-year-old girl, 10-year-old daughter, middle-aged woman. And like you're stopping the world for that. And then it was the mixed messages with masks. Originally, every doctor, I can actually play a clip if you want me to, of Dr. Hillary and Fauci and all these other people saying that they're completely useless and they would actually be counterproductive and could potentially spread the Rona. Mm-hmm. And it would be foolish to do it. And then Fauci come back later and said, I only said that because I didn't want the hospitals to run out of PPE. Like somehow the hospitals were using cloth masks from the shop. Like it's bizarre to me that he would come out. So why anyone would trust another word that he said after he come out and admitted, I put you, like, because then he's trying to say that masks are saving lives. So then if you're going to say that then, Fauci, then you've basically just admitted that you lied to the American people about the effectiveness of masks. And you put them all at risk by telling them that they was damaging to them by wearing one. So what is he, a mass murderer? Which way? Do you know what I mean? Like you're on the one hand telling people that, and then we hear that the science changed. But you're talking that Fauci, who's nearly 80 or whatever he is, has just discovered the size of virus particles in a cloth mask. Like something suddenly dawned on him. Actually, I was wrong then. Like the science has changed now. They're not passing through the mask. And Hillary Jones, I mean, shall I play the clip? Do you mind if I?
Yeah, try it. I'm more eager to see if it'll work because we've never done that before. But that's something that
I've just got it all on it. So this is what he said. So this guy was banging the drums for masks for 2 years, but this is what he originally said when he was first. The question first arose early in the pandemic.
Virus size is 1/10,000th of a millimeter, and if you magnify a mask, the holes are huge. So when you're inhaling air through a mask, the virus will easily penetrate, be sucked in through your breathing in. The virus does no good. Furthermore, I'd like to say, does it do any harm? It can do harm if you wear a mask, because you tend to put your hand to your face several times to adjust it. It gets itchy, it gets moist. You put your hand to your face more often. That can transmit the virus. Also, when the mask gets damp and moist, it traps the virus, and you have to handle a mask effectively to make it safe.
So that's what he said at the beginning, and this guy ended up 2 years later telling people to wear a mask in the sea.
Okay, can I stop you for a moment? Was that Fauci or Dr.
That was like basically our equivalent. That was like the guy that was on the TVs frightening everybody in the UK for 2 years, like on the morning TV. Fauci, I mean, I did have his clip, but I've took it off now from, we used to use it, but when he was talking about how he pretty much said exactly the same thing, and that you shouldn't wear them. I mean, I could get that's my fault on the pandemic. I just think it's been a massive overreaction. I don't know what camp Ian's in with this. I've always believed COVID was real. I've always believed it was a threat to people. I've always believed that vulnerable people are. I'm not denying that it's deadly to some people. I just think that the reaction to it over the last 2 years, especially in like when the new information was coming about how it actually spread. And the fact that at one point we were following arrows in the supermarket to stop the spread, like things like that is insane to me when I look at it now. And I think to myself, it's just got more ridiculous as time's gone on. With the as the COVID got less deadly, those restrictions got more ridiculous. Like if you sit in a restaurant, you're fine. But if you stand, you're definitely going to die of Rona. You won't make it out alive of that restaurant. Like, this is the message they're giving us. I've seen people arguing about this, like someone in a pub, and he's sitting down, so he's not got his mask on, and he's shouting at somebody because they're standing up without their mask on. Put your mask on! And she's like, you ain't got your mask on. He's like, I'm sitting down. I'm like, it's insanity to me. You know what I mean? I was like, yeah, you're sitting up. I ain't got trying to money. So I spent. That's exactly what I thought about it. You know what I mean?
Brilliant,
like,
brilliant.
That's how I see it.
Yeah. So I mean, that was brilliant. So my story is a little different. Everyone knows I'm into conspiracies, and when COVID first came on the scene in America and well, obviously China and all that, you know, I was on the ball. I was listening to podcasts and people that I knew, and people that one guy that I've met in the last couple of years. I've only actually met him once, but now we're like texting daily over the last 2 years, and he's kind of like my friends call him like my cult leader, but he's not. He's just a really nice guy who's been living the way I live now for 10, 15 years. Like it was 9/11 that woke him up. So, you know, as soon as COVID came out, I'm texting him saying, what do you think's happening here? And it's same, you know, the podcast I listen to, they're all saying, look, this is, you know, this has been prophesized about. It's been, you know, this is always going to happen. But this guy that I know of, he was talking to people as he was walking his dog. He interacts with people and he likes to spread the message. And the story I love to tell people is that he bumped into this guy up in the hills walking his dog, and just got chatting and turned around and says that in the year 2020, and this was like 2019, I think in the summer, he said, next year, we're all going to be wearing masks. We're all going to be standing 6 feet apart. We're all going to be banned from flying. We're going to have to take a vaccine. Otherwise, we won't be able to do things. And the guy's looking at him like he's got two heads. And literally like 6 months later, when all this had came true, the guy slams on his brakes in the street and says, I've been looking for you. He's like, you told me all of that stuff 6 months ago. How did you know? And he's like, here's my mobile number. And now he's like constant contact with him, and he's kind of woke up to this stuff. So everyone knows I don't like to harp on about the conspiracy side of things on this show, especially because if you want to listen to me on that, you can go to my Baramu podcast. But for me, everything that Matt said there, and I also agree with Solid, you know, you do you. I've never been one of those pushy guys that says you have to like take that mask down, you're an idiot and all that kind of stuff. I'm not like that, unless it's my own family, you know, because like my wife, she's having to go to work and she was wearing a mask at her work for the whole shift, and she started getting bloody noses like for a whole week and a half. She was coming home and every night she was having bloody noses, and I looked into getting an exemption card. Now that was something else that people in the UK, I don't think many people knew that to get an exemption card for the mask, I felt you had to go to your doctor and say, look, I've got issues, I've got asthma, whatever, and they would have to give you the exemption. It's not the case. All you need to do is go onto the government website, fill in your email address and your number, and they'll send a letter out with an official exemption card in it. So that's all you need to do, flash it. And to me, that is the main message I want to push, and I always do with COVID. If you don't want to wear a mask, if you don't want to get vaccinated, you don't have to. There's people that are taking these things and wearing the masks because they, like, I knew a guy who, he was all booked up to get married in Malta, and he was saying to me, look, I would never get these vaccines if it wasn't for that holiday. And I'm saying, I know it's tough. I know you stand to lose a few £1,000s on your holiday or whatever, but what's more important, and also, and I don't want to get into the whole, because there are some conspiracy theorists that say these vaccines are going to kill you and they're going to make you infertile. They're going to make you do this. Like, I'm not into that at all. I don't think that. I don't. But for me, the biggest issue I have is morals and standing firm by your beliefs. Like, the whole, mandates in general are disgusting. And like, I always use the example of men and women in the 30s and 40s and 50s who were real men. Like, they wore suit, and real women, like, they would have proper beliefs, proper morals. They would hold their governments accountable. They would have real conversations in pubs. If you talk about COVID in a canteen or in a pub, you get a slap because nobody wants to talk about it. They just want to, it's we're out having a pint, we're watching the football. Don't talk about that stuff. And that's what I hate. In the canteen at work, I had an outburst because they were all, trying to wind me up. And I'm saying, you're all men, but you're going home at nights and you're watching Celebrity Big Brother and Love Island, and you're coming into work and you're hating on me because I'm not vaccinated. And it's the cognitive dissonance I can't stand. So I had an outburst at them saying, you're not real men. And that's the point. This guy might have lost a lot of money going to Malta. He wouldn't have been able to go. But what's more important, if you strongly believe that these vaccines are, the mRNA technology that hasn't been tested on humans, and there are dangers with them, but you're willing to put your life in danger because of a holiday, or maybe just, going to your gym, or the gym's closed, unless I'm vaccinated, I better just, it's, to me, that's where I push back on those types of people, because and it's not about, I totally agree with you do you, but if you're coming up to me and telling me I'm not taking these vaccines, and then there was a guy also, he goes to the football every Saturday, he's got a season's ticket, so when that come into effect, that you couldn't go and watch your football team unless you were vaccinated, I go up to him one weekend and said, oh, you'll be missing the football, and he's like, no, I ended up getting vaccinated. And I'm like, what? Like, you're sitting saying it's all this conspiratorial stuff, and then you're, and I even say, like just to my final thought, where Matt was talking about the restaurant, and that was a ridiculous one. If you're seated, you're fine, but if you're walking about, oh, you better put on a mask. But the one I thought was, there was a guy that I listened to that had a great analogy, and it was, if Fauci came out tomorrow and said that the virus flies about the world at 5 feet or 6 feet, so what we want you to do is start crawling about. When you go into supermarkets, go on your hands and knees, do your shopping. We'll make all there would be people that would do it. And that's what pisses me off. That's what gets me, because we're so brainwashed. And it's like we were talking the other night on your show, Solid, about cults and how it turns people into sheeps. And, the cult leader ends up being like and that's how I see this. It's like cult-like, where you're blindly following people like Bill Gates, Fauci. I'm not saying you, I'm saying in general, everyone is just watching the news. How many masks? 3? Okay, 3. And then that's it. So that they're not even caring about, it says on the box that 20 minutes, unless you're in a sterile environment. And I'm in work, and the men are all wearing them for 8 hours and pulling them down with oily gloves. You should see these masks by the end of the shift. They're disgusting. And I'm trying to tell them, you're breathing in that shit. And there's also the theory that the Spanish flu was made worse by the masks, because in those days the hygiene wasn't the best, and they were pulling them on, pulling them off, and all that. So yeah, I've spoke long enough. What are you saying, Matt?
Just quickly, when you said that about the Spanish flu, there was a theory that masks made the Spanish flu worse. Do you know whose theory that was?
Fauci.
Fauci.
I know. Yeah. It's insane. So Solid, what have you got to say?
Okay, so
Solid. I want to quickly know: did you wear a mask in a restaurant? Did you feel safe?
I actually did not. Up until November of we're in 22. Up until November 21, I had not gone into a restaurant at all, and not just because of COVID. I've never been one to want to go to like this. I am a big germ person. Okay. So even before COVID, when I go to the market, I was wearing gloves because people are just nasty. Okay. They're just nasty. You touch a cart and it's just nasty. So, but when I was in the first restaurant I went into was in Chicago, and in November, they did not require masks. But in February, when I went back, when the Omicron thing was going on, you could not get into a restaurant in the entire city unless you show your vaccine card, and you had a mask. And they were literally saying, "No, you cannot come." And one of the people that I was in the restaurant with, they were like, his wife was really upset, yelling at him like, "Where is your card? You're supposed to have it." And he didn't have his license or anything, so he had to like go back to the car and all that other stuff to get it. But yeah, I mean, with masks, this is the issue that I have with masks. And again, I come to the fact that it is a political thing. Of course, doctors wear masks, whatever. And yes, it does say, Ba, you are right, that on the back of the thing, it does say that you should change them out, whatever. But isn't that up to the individual person? Me personally, I'm not going to go 8 hours with a mask on, knowing that I'm working someplace where it's dirty or whatever, without putting on a different one. I mean, so that's them. And in terms of, your nose, bleeding and what have you, for everything, there's always going to be that exception where one person can't wear something or do something or eat something, whatever, because they're going to have an adverse reaction. But with mask, I just look at it like you have people who are sick, who have cancer, who have colds, whatever, and they have to wear a mask. And if I was in the room with your sister, Whatkast, and I knew she was sick, whether it was COVID or not, I would put on a mask and I would ask, what do I need to do to keep your sister safe? And even though I know that, we're talking about something that, I don't know. I mean, I just think that for certain things, it's like common sense. I don't think that, wearing a mask is such a big deal. It's like when you go to the market, yes, if someone is telling me to do it, no, I don't want to, don't tell me to do it, give me that choice. But if you're going to the market and you're in there for like less than an hour, you can't put a mask on and then just take it off, so.
Yeah, but I think the difference is like just what you said is the mandate side of it. That's why I was kind of trying to focus in on that. Like to be told by a government or a corporation or whatever, you can't come in or you can't do this unless you do these things is not a precedent that I think is a good one with anything, because that's why I would strongly say to everyone that even though you're fully vaxxed and you wear a mask and you even wear gloves and whatever, you need to be on the side of the people who don't, because this one might suit you, if that's your beliefs and you've got something wrong with you and you feel that you're a threat to this virus, fine. But the people who are saying that this is only killing, what is it, 0. I can't even remember. Like it's been a while since I remembered, but at one point it was like you had a 99.97% chance of surviving it if you got it, unless you had underlying illnesses. I think for like if you're under 65 years of age, it was like you'd more chance of being struck by lightning. The facts, the statistics of that were compared to people that were being struck by lightning. So for a government to say you have to do this and you have to inject yourself with mRNA technology that's never been tried for every other vaccine's had at least double figures between 10 to 20 years of testing before it's reached human trials. And this is the first time this has ever happened. And with the masks, you could also say, that the mask mandates, that's where I draw the line. You can't, it's all good you doing what you do. And I would never say, take that off and do this and do that. But I also want the people who are fully vaxxed to say, we stand with you, because this time it's fine for you. But let's say in 5 years' time, the government come out and say, right, and this is going to be crazy, and I don't believe this at all, but let's say they come out and say, right, guys, you all need to be injected with this drug that kills you after 10 years because there's too much people in the world. So everyone needs to get it, because in 10 years' time, we're going to have 20 billion people in the world. Like, I know it's crazy. It's just a hypothetical. You need to stand by us, because when it's with everything, like the abortion argument, the trans argument, like we'll stand with you on that. But if you stand with us on the, I think that's the way the world should be, more together as people and fight for things like that. So, yeah.
Okay, let me ask you both this. It's a two-part thing. Do you believe that if you guys were to come to my house and I said either you had to put on a mask or you have to be vaxxed, do you think that I have that right to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I also have the right to not go into your house.
Right. You also, right. And I have the right to not come into someone's house, they're not vaxxed, whatever. Okay. So my next question is, if I am a mom and pop shop and I own a store or whatever, and it is and I own it, and I say, you cannot come in unless you have on a mask or you are vaxxed. Do you think I have the right to say that?
Yeah.
Okay, so is your argument about mandates more so because the Walmarts and the Targets and all these big stores and what have you, and whatever, and you go into the bank and what have you, they're the ones that are saying it, but the mom and pop people, you don't have an issue with it?
No. For me, it's government mandates. If a shop's owned by somebody and they want to make those rules, if they're paranoid about COVID or they think they've got people at risk in their families or whatever, completely within your rights to do whatever you want to do. I wouldn't even, to be honest, I don't know whether Ian agrees with me on this, I wouldn't even have a problem with the mandates if any of this stuff was effective. But vaccine, tell me another vaccine. You mentioned other vaccines earlier on. Tell me another vaccine in history needed 4 in a year to still get it, to still catch the thing.
Okay, you're saying, I'm saying, can you repeat that?
Vaccines, to mandate a vaccine, I would require this from my government to tell me I have to get something to take part in society. I would require them to prove to me that me getting this vaccine makes me safe from COVID and makes other people safe from me from catching COVID. Yet, as far as I can see, there's been, in some places, I know people that have had 4 of these jabs in less than a year, and they've still got COVID right now. And some of them are very ill. So what would be, so what's the mandate for? And before anyone says, oh, because it lessens the effect, I had COVID myself in January and it was 2 days. I'm not vaccinated. It was nothing for me. And yet I know vaccinated people that had the same strain as me around me that were bedridden for 3 weeks. Just anecdotal, but that at least proves that there's no science behind this. And as far as like masks, I've got loads of charts if you want to see them that show that they're I don't know what. Like I've heard a couple of doctors. I know that they're not allowed on mainstream and whatnot. And there's people that were heads of their field until 2 years ago, and now they're conspiracy theorists. Do you know what I mean? But I heard one person say you may as well sellotape a tennis racket to your face and go out and have someone throw sand at you, and then say, yeah, but look, it caught some of it on the tennis racket. You still got a face full of sand.
So again, so for you guys, it's mostly the mandates, but not COVID itself. It's just the mandates.
Mandate
Yeah.
what? Mandate whatever you want, but prove to me why you're doing it. Show me a purpose. Like mandating a mask that you're mandating to stand in but not sit in. That people are pulling up and down all day. That people are. I know people. We had mask mandates. I've got some charts here. I don't know if you want to see them. I don't know if they even work on the share. But there's people that we dropped the mask mandate in England in I don't know, last year sometime, sort of, I don't know, was it June or something like that, 2021. And people took their masks off because the government told them they could. Nothing was any safer, but the TV told them that, oh, I'm all right, I won't get the Rona now, I'll take this off. So they just kept it off in their bag. And then it came back in December. They put the mask out of their bag that they haven't even washed since July, the last time they had it on, and put it straight back on again. I'm safe from the Rona again now. It's insanity to me. And it's like, what are you talking about? And then as far as people, what Ian was making, like when people were saying, oh, Fauci could say this and everyone would just do it. 3 masks, and people are virtue signalling about that. They're saying, oh, 3 masks, 2 masks, people, don't you care? Well, why aren't you wearing 15 masks then? Why aren't you walking down the street with 25 masks sticking out of your face? Do you know what I mean? Like, because surely that'll keep people even safer. Put 2,000 masks on.
No, I totally get what I can see right now. You're just gonna be somebody that just makes me laugh. But no, you
know what I mean, though. But like, you could go on. You could say everyone should be walking around looking like an elephant in the street with a trunk of masks on, just to keep Granny safe, who's already got COVID.
I mean, I totally get that, but for me, okay, that's why I have to go back to the. And I know that you may think that this is weak, whatever. That's why I have to go back to the, we're going to have to get to the point where if the government realizes that we're all going to just do our own thing, which we've been doing anyway, maybe there'll be some pushback. But hold on, before I go, does anyone want to respond to any of the comments that have been popping up? Does anybody want to?
I want to say hello to Lee. Hello, Lee. Lee listens.
Is that Conspiracy Lee?
No, it's not. No, it's a female Lee with a Lee double E. Yeah.
So
Okay.
does anybody want to? Either you two want to respond to any of this, or this is what
Real Conservative Talk says? These are good points. The private sector actually owns the property and the land. The government should be allowed to tell them to do anything because I own the government. Yeah. I think that's Made Man, by the way. Sadke Butler. That's Made Man, I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And then this one, what about this one? Because I thought this one was interesting. It was the most utterly pointless embarrassment of all time. So I'm assuming you're talking about the mandates, Lee?
Yeah.
Is that what she's referring to?
Yeah, if Lee wants to expand on that, yeah, she is. Well, no, it's Made Man. So I was going to add. I know
her. Yes, she is.
Yeah. So the manufacturers of these shots, the Pfizer, the Moderna, and all those, they came out before all these shots and said that they were going to be immune from prosecution, which is a big telltale sign for me. Like, you can no longer sue these companies if anything happens to you. And we know now, I don't actually know the figures, but I was watching a video today to prepare for tonight's chat, and it was like a guy in a courtroom saying that VAERS only records like 41% of cases that like a doctor doesn't record everything to VAERS. It's like 41% of things to do with these vaccines. And it was like 10,000 deaths. So if you multiply that, I know it's not going to be exact, but 41,000, that's 410,000. But let's even say it was 300,000 deaths due to the vaccines up to this point. That's 300,000 people that have died on a mandate or doing something that the government's told them to do, and they have no stance. Like, their families don't get to sue these companies, and that's a new thing, because up until these shots, all the other vaccines, you could sue the manufacturer of them. And the fact I always remembered was in 1986, the America started a vaccine injury claims court, and from 1986 till now, they had spent out $4 billion in compensation. And that goes, that's a scary thought. So when these manufacturers, Pfizer, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, all came out and said, by the way, these shots they've only had 6 months of testing. It's a new type of technology that the manufacturer, the guy that was involved in it is, what's his name again? What's his name? Anyway, the guy that created or helped create this mRNA technology is now considered one of those conspiracy theorists. And he was like one of the most lauded, persons in his field before these shots. He'd been given all these awards and things. And now he's on Twitter saying he didn't want this technology being put out to the public. He thinks it's dangerous. He's trying to tell you, think before you act and all that kind of stuff. And I just like to,
this is
use analogies.
Sorry, Ian, who are you trying to think of?
I remember. I'm trying to. Yeah, there's Peter McCullough is one that I also listen to. But who's the guy that's created the mRNA technology?
Oh, that was Robert Malone.
Robert Malone. So Robert Malone was huge in this mRNA technology, and he's now banned off of all this. I don't know if he's still got Twitter, but he's posting like me. Like the things I would say is he's saying. So I use the analogy of like, if I came out and said, I've just made this soup that has loads of vitamins in it, but by the way, if you die after drinking my soup, you're on your own. Would you take my soup? Because that's the way I think people learn when you dilute it down to like you and I. Like I always say, like with it, the 9/11 thing, the buildings fell and the guy that insured them like tripled his money and all that. So if I came out to you guys and said, I'm in debt by £100,000, I've been into drugs and all that, and then the next morning my house burns down, you'd be thinking, he's done that. It's an insurance job. So that's the way I think I feel that's a good way of helping people.
I was listening. I was listening the other day. I know you hate him and he's a shill, etc. Russell Brand, right? I think he's got a lot of good things to say, regardless of whether you think he's a shill. Because I still agree with what he says. I don't know anything. My opinion on him, I do not know, right? But he did say one thing that made me laugh, and he said it's like with the Pfizer because they tried to suppress the information for 75 years. I want to get to Solid in a minute and see what you think about things, like whether it concerns you at all that this kind of stuff is said about these vaccines. But they said 75 years will tell you what, all of the stuff that we don't want you to know at the moment. And he was saying if you went to buy a car, it's like the car dealer saying to you, and you saying, can I just have a quick look under the bonnet before I buy the car? And he's like, no, 75 years. In 75 years, we'll let you look under the bonnet. It works for now, so just drive off, give us the money, and in 75 years, you can have a look to see if the engine's clean. Like, it is that thing, except life or death instead. Yeah. And I know I can say that because Russell Brand said it on the Tube of You, so we're not going to get taken down for me repeating him.
Yeah, I like these analogies. It's good.
I don't deny what you guys are saying, but on the one hand, and let's take Dr. Fauci out of the entire thing, okay?
Please do. Take him out of life.
Because I want
to give him about 1 million vaccines.
No, because I think that whenever you bring him in, and yes, when COVID first came out, and you are absolutely right. The way the administration here did it, it was ass backwards. The way Fauci did it, it was ass backwards. Because when he even said healthy people should not wear masks, and then when our Surgeon General said the same thing, I'm saying to myself, well, if you're healthy, shouldn't you wear masks so you can not get COVID? I mean, that's how I saw it. So for me, I'm like, I don't care what you all are saying. I'm going to wear a mask. Now, back in August of 2019, I teach children from overseas. And I saw the lockdowns coming. I saw the parents walking in the house with masks on or whatever. And I told my husband, I said, this is coming here. I said, and I, like your friend or whatever, I said, we are going to be wearing masks. We are going to be wearing, because there's just no way that this is going to stay isolated in one place when people are flying all over the place, whatever. But let me ask this. Do you believe that some diseases that the world has faced have been have gone away because of vaccines, such as polio or some of those other? I mean, do you think that vaccines helped get rid of some of these things to people who had access to it?
Do you want me to go first, or you, Ian?
Yeah, you go, Matt.
I would say with polio, potentially, yes. I wasn't here, I don't know. But in my opinion, from what I've read from medical experts, YouTube, this isn't me telling people anything, right? From what people have said, even when we had pandemics or big diseases hanging around and killing lots of people, within a 2-year period, generally, they mutate to be so weak that they're no longer a threat, with or without a vaccine. So the evidence of this vaccine, people saying, "Oh, thank God!" Like the most ridiculous things I read is like, "I've had 25 jabs and I'm in bed with COVID. I'm nearly dead, but I'm not dead because I've had 25 jabs. Thank you for my vaccine." And I just think to myself, well, who should I thank then? Because I've not had any, and I was fine in 2 days. Who do I thank for that? I thank the natural progression of viruses that we can. I'm not saying if I'd have got COVID. I mean, I've seen it for myself. Are we going to get into vaccines? Because I've got quite a bit. Obviously, I'm going to try and keep it.
I'll just.
Yes.
Can I just say? Can I just answer that quickly? I'll just say I believe in the immune system, which is the biggest conspiracy theory out there right now. The immune system. Yeah, I believe our immune, and this is where I like to poke fun at the religious people, because aren't you supposed to? You believe in God. You believe that your body is fully, ready to face anything. And there's a lot of Christians, a lot of people that's gone out and taken these vaccines. My great uncle in particular, I'd love to sit down and have a chat with him. But any of these, the flu, even the Rona, any of these things, I think your immune system and herd immunity would be a stronger and better way to beat these things than a vaccine. I think a vaccine, it's why we have the flu vaccine every year, So I actually, when you were saying that question, I was like, no, because I was like, well, we still have the flu after all these years. Well, up until 2 years ago, that the flu actually disappeared, didn't it? So in regards to that, like any of these polios and all these other things, the vaccine is maybe a temporary immunity. It'll help you boost your immune system. It'll help you fight it, but then you can catch it the following year. So to me, it's not a permanent fix, whereas your immune system is a better way, because if you catch the Rona, it's a well-known thing. If you catch it, the second time you get it, you're more likely to beat it off, because your immune system will build antibodies. Whereas my belief on the mRNA, and again, don't shoot me down in flames, but what the mRNA technology in these shots is doing is spiking your proteins to be on high alert for COVID. But that itself is dangerous, because I use the analogy of, like, you imagine being a bouncer at a pub. We call them bouncers, like a steward, and you're stood there going, where's all the COVID? And you've got like 1,000 people coming at you, and there's the COVID ones are wearing yellow t-shirts, and the flu and all the other things are wearing red, blue, whatever. And you're only looking for the yellow t-shirts going, you can't come in. But everything else is just getting past. That's what the mRNA, and that's why, and this is probably going to be very thingy, but they're talking
Don't say it.
They're talking a lot about people having AIDS now, and that is vaccine-induced AIDS, which is immune deficiency, which is what these vaccines technically could be doing to you. Like, I know, but that it's crazy, because in 1984 was the very first AIDS patient, and also like the Cold War stuff with Russia, Ukraine, like it's very symbolic, and that's where I'll stop there.
That's just stuff you've read from medical experts, so it's not what you believe, is it? Just make that clear.
I just wanted to make a comment on why I took Fauci out. I wasn't taking Fauci out to make my case better. I was taking him out because, people, I don't want to say this. There are other doctors out there besides him. And for me personally, I was not a Fauci person. I picked up the phone. I called my own doctor. So that's why I said, so that is why I'm saying that. So, but anyway.
So Matt, do you want to get into the vaccine stuff?
Yeah, you want to put some stuff in there.
Oh yeah, no. But what I wanted to address a common misconception, Ian, you just brought it up as well about the flu jab. Like people always come at me, like my mates, everybody's vaccinated but me, and they constantly, do you not feel safe? Do you feel safe? And all this, and I say, tell me. I know, as I said to Solid earlier, tell me another vaccine that requires 4 in a year to still get the illness. And people always bring up the flu. Oh, we get the flu booster every year. We don't get the flu. This is not true. The flu jab every year is always a different strain of flu. It's always the one they've guessed that countries in southern hemisphere countries have had in their winter or whatever, and they give that to the northern hemisphere because they believe that will be. They just guess, and it's literally 30 to 40% effective. They think, they don't know. It's not the same thing over and over and over and over again. This one, they've made one. That strain has now gone 2 years ago, and we're still giving the same one over and over again, and limiting people's lives depending on whether they've got it. Now, I have natural immunity from having COVID, yet I can't go on holiday. I can't travel because I'm not vaccinated, which is insane to me. But for vaccines, again, I'm not telling anyone anything here. But let's talk about my dad. So my dad was totally all about the news. The government are keeping us safe with these jabs, etc. My dad had kidney failure at 58 years old, but it never really affected him too much. He adjusted his life accordingly. He had to take early retirement because he was a bus driver and he was a high risk for a stroke and whatever because he was on lots of blood pressure pills, etc. He never really had any problems whatsoever throughout all the years. And this might just be coincidental until his first COVID jab. And then suddenly, the massive decline. A rash all over his body that he could not bear, reduced him to tears sometimes, and he was not an emotional man. Then massive, huge weight loss, took his second jab, massive kidney, late stage kidney failure from nothing, right? His kidneys have been the same. Then his heart failed, pacemaker. Then he took his booster. Then his rash got 50 times worse. His kidneys completely failed. He went down to a skeleton and died in February, 2 months ago. His dying bed would not accept. He was kind of coming around that maybe the vaccine might have pushed this along. And the only reason I'm not saying it is a vaccine, YouTube, I'm just saying that that's quite a chance, isn't it? Quite a chance happening that someone that's been fine, he was 76 when he died. Someone that you don't usually go from your kidneys being quite safe and the same as they've been. Fair enough, they wasn't working to 100%. But late stage kidney failure, he got the dialysis, dementia, everything at the end, didn't know who anybody was, all in the space of the last couple of months. After his booster, which was the first Pfizer that he had. And I'm not saying that any of this has caused it. What I'm saying is I'm not even allowed to question that. I'm not even allowed to say that without being completely banned, called, oh, you're crazy, that would have happened anyway. It may have happened anyway. But that's what happened. And yes, I know there's plenty of people that have took these jabs and not had any adverse reaction. I know people that have taken these jabs and they said, I don't even know that I had it. I didn't have a cold. I didn't have any kind of symptoms for, you know what I mean? And I don't know, there's a train of thought that says some people may have got a placebo for a control group because of the way they've done this. And maybe that's why they didn't have any reactions. I don't want to go down that. I don't know anything about that. But I know that I've lost my sister to cancer because they cancelled her chemo in the last 2 years, and I've lost my dad, who massively and rapidly declined. It was either purely coincidental after the vaccine. His rash was definitely after the vaccine, or it wasn't. Yeah, so.
Now, see, that's one thing that I will say that when I started hearing that, non in what um, invasive surgeries were not going to happen, or they were going to stop treatment for this or this and this, that I thought was wrong. It was horrible. It was just, that was just wrong. And at one point I said, okay, so should we put all of the COVID patients in one building, and everyone else who needs to be treated, who doesn't, that they don't have it, they go to building B. So your sister still could have been, getting her, chemo, and someone else comes in and, they have this or this or this. Maybe that is what they should have done. But I do know that a lot of people were affected because who did not have COVID, but ended up, getting sicker because of COVID. So that I thought was absolutely wrong. So, yeah. So let me ask this. Do you guys believe that, again, I want to take the politics out. If COVID had just happened, let's just say it was just something just popped up and the politicians weren't saying it or anything, how do you think the world would have reacted to it? What do you think? Do you think it would have been worse? Do you think it would have run its course? I mean, what do you think? Where do you think we would be right now if politics were taken out of COVID?
Well, to me, the numbers, definitely the numbers at the time where they locked the UK down, in Scotland, there was like 3,000 deaths. And you have to remember, this was in flu season. That's a normal, like every year, is it, Matt, you'll maybe be able to correct me, is it not 40,000 people die of the flu every year?
Not every year, but not every year, on a high year, yeah.
Yeah. So those numbers weren't breached at any point. And I don't think, see, if you take the amount of people that have died due to COVID right now, and what the media aren't doing is dividing it over seasons, because any other illness, any other like flu or SARS or whatever, you have to take it seasonal. So you would have to take the total amount of deaths, divide it by, so you've got summer of 2020, winter of 2019, then, the seasons, and then see if you divide that total number over by the seasons, it's nothing out of the ordinary. So to me, and I know the rebuttal to that is, well, that's because we've got masks in place and that's because now we've got the vaccine. But I don't think these are, I think, like Matt, I think you were about to say, you had the slides, and I've definitely seen them, where you have every country in Europe, Germany, Belgium, and all that, right?
Let me see if I can bring them up. I don't actually know.
Where the masks were implemented and the cases go up, and then when the masks were taken away, the cases go down. And it was so obvious. And these slides were, like, I shared them, and I'm sure I got fact checked, and they didn't want them put up on social media, but there's no denying that. By the way, if Michael Key wants to join,
is this up? Can anyone see this?
Okay, hold on. Let me put it up here for you. There we go.
Okay.
All right. So this
Awesome.
is. I don't know if you can see my pointer here.
Yeah, you can.
So basically, to explain to everyone what they're looking at here. So this was all of the UK. So you got like England, Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Wales. So there was a mask mandate until this point. 19th of July, mask mandate ended. So this purple line here is England. And if you look here, that's when it ends. And look what happens as soon as it ends. Straight down. So I'm not suggesting, even though the doctors were to begin with, that masks potentially make this worse. But that would suggest, if this was the other way around, that's what people would say. If masks came in at this point and it suddenly dropped, everybody would say that's because of masks. Masks went away and it dropped. And you look where it ended up at the end of this chart here. England are actually bottom when they brought mask mandates back. They were bottom of the cases of all of the UK, and everyone else kept their mask mandate for the entire time. England went below, and they was bottom. They went up a little bit here, but they was bottom for the vast majority of this whole time here. So that at least proves that they're at least ineffective, if not damaging. You can look at this one. This is the states. Mask mandate versus no mask mandate. It's almost the same. No mandate is lower. This goes up to, I don't remember, can't see the date at the bottom there. but it follows the same trajectory. So it's at least arguable that they're the same, that there's no difference, at least if we're being generous. You can go to any of these countries, requires masks, straight up. Out here, Hawaii, indoor masks, outdoor masks. You can say, well, that would have gone off the chart if we hadn't brought masks in. But these charts, this is what they show. This is Office of National Statistics. This is European COVID cases. No mask required is in the red. Mask required is in the black. And you see what happens. It's the same. UK, the same. The same. Italy. You know, I don't know. What do you make of that?
Okay, so is it the mask? Is it the mask, or is it just that the cases during that time were going up?
Yeah, but on the first one that I showed you, the mask mandate ended and the cases immediately dropped. With all of these, the cases may have been already rising. Some of them they wasn't. Italy, it seems that they were. This one here, it seems that they were. This one here, they've kind of flattened out for the summer, like they did everywhere in Europe, because we had lockdowns, etc., which obviously are going to stop cases because people ain't doing anything. There's UK, it's pretty much flat, and then it doesn't stop it doing anything. And this climb, by the way, the following year, there was no mask mandate. This was all from 2020, I believe. This was 2020 when they first came in. 2021, it rose at the same level, and the mandate was there and didn't go any higher or lower. It was the same. So literally nothing changed, masks or no masks. And that is the office. That's not me making that up, or my opinion. And again, you say politics. I'm not politically motivated in any way to say any of this stuff. I've got no interest. I don't vote for anybody.
Okay. All right. When I said that, I just meant that if we took the Boris Johnsons out and the Bidens out and the Trumps out and all these other people, you know, would the world see COVID?
Some people for sure, yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
That's awesome. That's really cool that you can do that. It's something we're going to have to utilize in the coming shows.
You can take that down. Do I have to turn that off? Oh, that's fine.
No, there we go. Technology.
All right. I come prepared.
You know, so for the vaccines, can I get back to that for a moment? Because are we saying, and Bob, I know you're supposed to be taking the lead, but all these questions are popping up in my head. So for the vaccines, for COVID, is the main thing because it came out so fast as opposed to the polios and the measles and the mumps and all that? I mean, is that
But see that there, you are kind of right as well. But see, for me, the people who said, and I know plenty of them, people that were saying, I'm just going to wait and see. That's all I want from people. That's what I promote all the time on my show, is just critical thinking. Don't just follow the news. Don't just follow the TV, what they say. You know, you're a man, you've got your own mind. You're a woman, you've got your own mind. Do what you would normally do. Like think about it. You don't, this is the thing, like when you go and buy a car, like Matt says, or when you go and buy a fridge because your fridge breaks down, you research it. So why aren't we researching, or most people aren't researching? I mean, Johnson & Johnson, the asbestos in the baby powder, the Pfizer, they've received the biggest ever fine in a court to this date. Was it 2.4 million or billion or something? I can't remember. Why are we trusting them blindly? These are the men and the people behind these companies they're not your friend. They're all in it for the money. And it goes to show that they've already said that we're immune from being taken to court. They don't care about you and I. And then I'll bump into people at work. We'll be talking at work and they'll be like, oh, they're raising the age of retirement here in the UK to 67. Oh, it'll be 70 they don't care. They don't want us picking up I think we call it pension. You guys have your 401k, is it, where you retire and you get money from the state? So everyone's like, when I hear this, and it's a common thing where, oh, they're all corrupt, they're all up, for money, and they don't want us getting retiring age and picking up a pension. And these are the same people that you're trusting. So just hold them accountable. That's all I ask. It's not don't do this and don't do that. I don't care what you do. I tried with my family, I'm sure, Matt, I'm sure you did as well. Like I was such a heartbreaking story. And I was on the phone. I went up and seen my grandparent, my nanny, who's the only one remaining of that age. And my sister, luckily, she's on board with this stuff, and she's not into conspiracies at all. But she just watches the daytime TV, the Piers Morgan, that kind of, and she's awake. She's quite clever, and she's like, I'm not taking it. And I'm like, well, as long as I didn't, she doesn't listen to my show or anything. All I want is just critical thought. Just you do you.
But but Bob, when you say that you want people to just sit back and just look at everything, but then you also just said that you were disappointed, so
you can be.
So at what point though, how long, are you giving people a time limit on when they should stop thinking about things? Or, because I did the same thing. When they start talking about the vaccines, my sister are like, okay, so with people like us, they've been doing this stuff for years. Are we sure we want to get this, whatever. So we were thinking about that. Those are things that came up. And the more and more, whatever, we kept going back and forth. Do you think we should get it? Do you think we shouldn't? Whatever. And then it was just a decision that I personally made. Okay. Now my husband and my son at the time, he turned 21 last year, whatever. And I told him, I said, it's up to you. If you want to get it. I'm not making you, whatever, but this is what I'm doing. And I told him why. And he was listening to some other people. And then I think my husband got it first, and it took me probably about 4 months after him to get it. Cause I don't know if I want to get that. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, are you about to drop dead or whatever? What's going to happen? So, it was, going back and forth. So, and I have someone now who continuously sends me stuff on why I shouldn't get it, and please don't get the full truth and whatever. And it's like, I hear you, I read everything that you give me, but for me right now, this is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. So solid.
Sorry,
thanks, Ian. So I just want to ask: do you not think though that do you believe that the world governments, etc., have been completely transparent with the information about to allow people to make informed decisions and give informed consent? No. Exactly. So, and that's my problem with it. Like, how can you have informed consent if they're not being transparent and telling you the risk? I always say, if there's any risk, there needs to be a choice. If you're mandating things, you're taking away a choice. If you're not allowed to live life, and you have to potentially risk your life, when everyone knows this now, that there is even if it's a tiny risk, there's a risk. And
that's with everything. But the government does that with everything. The government has its foot in everything that we do. So
I disagree with everything that they do.
Well, I don't know. Okay. You want to go down that road, but I'm just saying that the government. The government is around just everywhere. You go out now, you cannot walk down the street without a camera, being right there, just to see. At our house, we have them. You come up to the door, whatever. You go outside on the side or the back, whatever, we have them, whatever. So, the majority of things that we do, the government is there. So
that doesn't make it okay.
No. And that's why it comes back down to, what is your choice? What do you personally choose to do? How do you personally choose to handle this particular situation?
I think my point is, like, when you've got a TV, I don't know what it was like over there, but in this country especially, that's all I know. I'm assuming CNN done similar over there, but we've literally had like a clock in the corner telling you how many people were dying every minute. Like, do you know what I mean? It's like, if you're going to tell me that, then put in the other corner, this is how many adverse vaccine reactions we've had today. Make your choice. This is how many people have died. This is how many people have died of the vaccine. This is how many people have died of pneumonia today. This is how many people have died of the flu today. Get your vaccine. And the problem I think the problem they've got now is that so many people have pushed back on this and thought, even people that have been vaccinated have said, I just don't. I want it to be like, as you're saying, I want it to be my choice. I don't want to be told what I have to put in my body. I want to be able to make the choice if I think that that's the best thing for me to keep me safe. And it's made a lot of people anti-vax, completely anti-vax now, because they don't trust anything they're being told. And I got another story about my son. My son, when he was a little baby, was really nervous about giving him MMR jab. So we thought the safest thing to do would be to give him individual jabs of all of them, and we paid for it. And we wasn't anti-vax in any way, but I just thought, you hear these horror stories. I saw it was a TV show I saw of something. It's a grown adult that had like the brain of a 2-year-old, and his house he was like about 50, and his parents were still looking after him. He was still like couldn't speak properly and acting like a 2-year-old, and it was proven they got about £1 million payout from the MMR causing this. It was proven in court. And that's what I don't really want to go ahead. What's going on? So we gave him the measles jab, right? Within 2 days of the measles jab, he was hospitalised for a week and a half. Completely couldn't stand, didn't have his balance, didn't have anything. And the doctor low-key took me to one side and told me, I shouldn't be telling you this, but you're lucky you didn't give him the MMR because you would have lost him. That's exactly what he said to me. And that was a tried and tested measles vaccine that everybody trusts and is probably really safe. And they reckon the reason was he probably had a couple of viruses already and it was too much for his system to be given that as well, because you don't know when he's a little baby. And
is that reaction for everyone? Because my son also got it and he's fine. So
most people are fine.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, but that's why.
That's a tested vaccine that everybody trusts, and people are wondering why someone's skeptical about this one. And people, and I haven't done it much of anything at work with people. And people around me, everybody went and got double jabbed straight away because they just thought this vaccine. We have them all the time. We travel with vaccines. We do this, and individually, fair enough, I've given my opinion, but every single one of them has seen adverse reactions to other people. True. And someone knows someone that's had to have his leg amputated because he got a blood clot. Someone knows someone that had a stroke at a very young age, Bell's palsy. What's the other one? The rash. What word am I looking for? It's not chicken pox. It's an adult version of chicken pox,
Rubella. It starts with an S.
Yes. You know what I mean. That. Yes. Everyone will know.
Psoriasis.
No. It's... you know what it is. It doesn't matter. But they've had brief.
To tonight and go, yes, this is
scabies.
Actually, no, you're going back to like 1920s diseases. I spoke to somebody and they had like
shingles.
Shingles. That's the one. I spoke to Ian would not have shut up there until he got it right, would he? It was like Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? You're on. There's no money involved here. I spoke to somebody, a woman, and she had Bell's palsy, and I said to her, what's going on with your face? And she said, it's likely caused by a vaccine. I said, what you mean? And she said, yeah, but at least I'm safe from COVID. They don't care. People are like, safe from COVID. All right, fine. Great. Hello, Michael.
But I will say this. Welcome, Michael. What I will say this is for the chicken pox, I cannot be around anybody. If I'm around a kid or anybody who has it, I will get really sick because I've never had it. And for some reason, the few times that I have been exposed to it, I have gotten really, really sick for whatever reason. The vaccine, whatever, it doesn't work, whatever. Mm-hmm. So for things like that, it's like, stay away from me. Shingles, I'm terrified of it because shingles is supposed to be worse, whatever. But But anyway,
just before we head to Michael, I was just going to add, like, that's my point is, like, here's Matt with a very, like, see, when you're telling stories like that, like, I'm like, oh my God, like, it's hearing it from someone you kind of know. I know we haven't met in real life, but it's very like hard hitting. Like I feel it, and I don't have any stories like that, luckily, touch wood. But these stories are more common than you think, and that's the difference between when a government tells someone you have to get this, or even I use the example of I'm at work, right, my old work, right, and we're gathered around doing a toolbox talk once every couple of months about COVID, and there's this guy there that is like, you just know he's ready to pounce, and he's like, I don't want to work next to people that aren't unvaccinated, because he knows that it was only me and one other guy and he couldn't stand me. And he's pointing, he's going, there's one other guy in here that's not vaccinated. I shouldn't have to work beside him, blah, blah. And I'm saying, hold on a minute. You're vaccinated like 3 times and you're worried about a human being that can only give you COVID.
Did you have to let them know that you were not vaccinated, or how did they know?
No, I didn't have to, but like it was obvious because I talk in the canteens, but it never got that far. But there are some countries that'll, I mean, Italy, you're not allowed to work if you're not vaccinated. So that's my point, is when you force someone to get a medical procedure, like this guy, I would say this guy at my work, are you willing to, like, say if I went out and took the vaccine that night because he's pressuring me to, is he willing to pick up the give my wife £1 million in compensation because obviously the manufacturer's immune? So be that on his head, you know what I mean? And that's where I draw the line. Like you were saying earlier that like I was kind of pressuring my grandparent, well, my nanny. I wasn't pressuring her. I just phoned her up. I says, Nanny, now think about it. Think about it. Is it, that's all I said.
Never said pressure. I never said pressure.
But I know what you meant. And I'm not digging at you. I'm just saying that is nothing compared to the pressure that unvaccinated people are feeling. Like at workplaces, I just told you how, I was being ostracized, but I can take it. But there's people all over the world that are not allowed to do things, whereas the people that are undecided maybe just get a little, for me, it was just a little bit of advice. Wait and see what happens and then make your mind up. That's all I would say. So,
well, if you guys come around me, I'm going to shed the vaccine all over you.
I'm Michael. How are you?
So guys, I'm glad Bob brought up the immunity thing, because I just want to give a different perspective just so everyone knows my thoughts on the vaccine. I am vaccinated. I got vaccinated because I have a girlfriend that lives in Australia, and I knew that more than likely if I was going to go over there, they're going to force me to have the vaccine. I've had COVID. I had COVID in February. So I've only gotten the 2 initial shots and ended up getting COVID afterwards. I got COVID from someone who was vaccinated. I know this 100% because we were at our place in Alabama, which is out in the middle of nowhere. And my mom got it. I got it. My dad got it. Everyone got it. We were all vaccinated. I don't go as deep as as a lot of people when it comes to some thoughts on the vaccine. I just think it should be your own choice. All right. I don't think that it's not a pandemic of the unvaccinated like we often hear. Not even close. But I want to go back to the immunity thing. And I just want to throw a thought out there. But like you said, most vaccines take 10, 12 years of research and trials before it's put out there, right? I don't think it's an argument of whether or not vaccines do work, because a lot of vaccines work, like the polio vaccine. I can tell you right now, I got bit by a dog twice the same year of COVID, 2020, while I was out on runs. And each time I ran to somewhere to get a tetanus shot. So, some do work. Now, the difference with the COVID vaccine is it's more like the flu vaccine. It doesn't prevent you from getting it. It just may help out, but they don't mandate the flu vaccine. So if Pfizer or Moderna or whoever, if it takes this long to make these treatments, but you have government funding for Moderna, Pfizer was not government funded, but the government promised to buy the product from them once it was created, and you have pressure to start releasing this treatment in a matter of a year or two, would you not want to get off the hook for the liability, knowing that there could be issues? Because it's not so much the company that may be at fault here, but the government for pressuring them. And you can't necessarily fault the company for wanting to get rid of that liability when they're being pressured by a bigger entity, to create this this treatment. Pfizer's a little different because they didn't take government funding for the research, but they still were in competition with the other companies like the Johnson & Johnsons and the Modernas. But Moderna, their market cap went up what, 20,000%. I mean, the company grew, 1,000-fold overnight by accepting
Sorry, excuse me. Wasn't it
okay?
Moderna's first ever anything they'd ever made? Wasn't it the first ever jab?
I believe so. I know they did some research stuff in the medical field. I don't know a whole lot about what they did beforehand, but they were only worth maybe, I don't know, $50 million or something. It was a very small company, and now they're $100 billion. I mean, whatever it is, I don't know what the exact number is, but that's the kind of growth they had, right? Just because of the money that the government put in to fund this, and then obviously people like me in the markets and stuff were going and buying stock, and that helps. But I think that government pressure is what they wanted the immunity for, because they're being pressured to put a vaccine out that they've only done trials on for 2 years or a year, less than a year. You can't really fault them for wanting that, in my opinion. It's not so much that they knew it was bad, it's that there was unknown about it. And we know this because there's been Pfizer people to come out and say that.
But has it really been, have they only really been working on it for less than a year or for a year, whatever? And I say that because you look at China and some of these other places where people think that it was, that it was already in a lab,
China.
So hold on. So do you think that they were already working on it?
Well, the patent was out long before, right? Who was Malone you brought up that went on Joe Rogan that holds a lot of the patents? They have been doing the mRNA research for a while. But again, I think you have to specify, like Bob and I were talking yesterday about coronavirus, and I had said, coronavirus has been around for a long time. If you go check all your cleaning products and everything, it has coronavirus listed. I believe coronavirus comes from the shape of the actual virus itself, not so much. SARS was a coronavirus, right?
Right.
But
most common colds.
Yeah, you had this specific type of COVID or coronavirus, right? And that's what we're dealing with. So I think that the vaccine had to be tailored to try and combat maybe that vaccine, right? Then you had the different strands. I'm not a scientist, okay?
But why don't they say the same thing with the flu? Because the flu changes every year, and every year they have to get something for this particular strain. So why aren't people freaking out about that? But with COVID, they are freaking out.
Because you're giving the same vaccine over and over again for a strain that's no longer relevant.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it too is we're used to living with the flu.
Yeah.
I mean, it's been 100. If you take COVID in 100 years, will it be the same problem? More than likely, no.
So that means
it's not the same problem in 2 years.
Back on the vaccines, then in 5-10 years, then it won't be a big deal, because, like you said, we're just going to get used to living with this particular strain or whatever.
But, yeah, and I don't think it's going to fall back necessarily on the vaccine, no more than our bodies and how it reacts to the virus itself. Because, right now, the flu can be deadly, very deadly. But you worry sometimes, maybe if you have a really young kid or a really old person, but anyone in between, you get the flu, you take a few days off, maybe a week, 2, and sometimes it gets bad. But for the most part, it is what it is. And, some people get the flu vaccine, some people don't. I think COVID is still kind of like that. I will say I was sick with COVID, and I run every day. I'm very good shape and everything. I wasn't like the sickest I've ever been in my life. I was sicker than a regular common cold, and probably a little bit less than like the actual flu itself. But I felt bad, and I think you're gonna just see the vaccine itself be more normal, which it already kind of is at that point.
Michael, sorry. By the way, I've not met you before. I'm Matt, by the way. Nice to meet you. Your audio sounds great, by the way. What are you using there? You got is that a Blue Yeti?
Yeah.
You're getting that sound out of a Blue Yeti, and I've spent all this money on this thing. It's unbelievable. You must have a well-treated room.
Matt, he was the guy that told me about that program. What is it? VVB?
VB Audio. VB Audio. Right. Now, I don't know if you can do that with that, Mike, because I know you have like another separate little sound control thing for that mic, don't you? That hooks into the computer.
This?
Yeah.
Yeah. This is you're on USB.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is XLR. I just wanted to ask quickly, do you think that you would have got sicker if you hadn't had the vaccine?
I don't know. I think I may have been the same. I think if the vaccine did anything for me, it may have just delayed it, because I'm out and about people all the time, right? I work personally with people because I'm a financial advisor, right? And I'm always out. I don't wear a mask. I think that some of it could just be the luck of the draw, who you're around. Some of it could be your body's immune system, how it reacts. I live with my brother who plays football here at MTSU, and he gets tested 4 times a week for football. He never had it, but a lot of people on his team did. Yeah. Now, ultimately, I believe that's where when I got it from, because my mom came up here to Tennessee, and then I drove with her down to Alabama, and we were around my brother, and he was sick at that same time. So we got it from someone on that team, but it just was kind of like the luck of the draw. I don't think I would have been sicker. I don't think I would have been better. Maybe it just delayed me from getting it.
And it's weird, like what you're saying there, though, what everyone's become. It's like this is the first illness in history that everyone's looking to. Who gave me this? Like everybody's like angry. Like we never thought about this before. Like I got a cold. I got a cold. I got a flu. I got a
Politics
flu.
out of it.
Yeah,
take the politics out of it, and everyone wouldn't be pointing fingers.
I think politics in America is much more in this than in the UK. Like it's never really been political here. It's been like kind of like you obviously got the woke crowd that I'm wearing 75 masks to protect everyone. Why don't you wear them to protect me, people? And then you've got the other people, like you get these idiots on the you see them on the underground lecturing everyone on the train about why are you wearing masks, you bunch of sheep. They're just as bad, these people, right? But it's not about politics. Like we've got a right-wing government, supposedly, in this country, and they were so pressured to do this. I've got an idea what Ian believes here. Do you think that this is by design, Ian? I just want to get to you here. Or do you think that this is just mismanagement? Like, because we're all laughing at the policies that were brought in. Do you think that those policies were always going to be brought in, regardless of who was in government? Or do you believe that they've just massively mismanaged and overreacted to something that amounts to something that was even at its worst, very small percentage, it was at risk?
Yeah, they've taken a small problem, and it is small because of the numbers that I mentioned earlier, and they've set these things in place to get us prepared for the next time. And I think the next time, like I'm not even fully on board with the COVID just disappearing. I think everyone knows it's here to stay. But I actually, up until maybe even a couple of months ago, I said we haven't seen anything yet. I think the biggest scariant is still to come. I think there's something ahead, and then even down to like we're already talking here in the UK. I don't know in America, but I was listening to a podcast the other day, and they're talking about in England. Maybe you can verify this, Matt. That they're talking about having a day where nobody can drive because of the climate change stuff. And I fully believe that we're then going to see climate change lockdown. So you'll eventually see. Whether it's countries, it'll probably start with like towns and cities first. So they'll say like Edinburgh, you've had too much carbon this week. You're going to have to close down for a week. Every business, every people stay home, and you also get a fine. And I mean, I don't know the ins and outs and what that's going to look like, but that could be something that is going to come. And I know conspiracy theorists say that is definitely down the line, and then the weather stuff, to give, last weekend we were sunning it up. I was burnt. I was like a lobster. My birthday weekend was amazing. And then the other day there, snow. And it's like, so I think, I won't go down that line, but
you think the government did that?
Yeah,
seriously.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's not a conspiracy, and it's not a far-fetched conspiracy. And I know people, and even you guys maybe laugh, right? Weather modification is not a conspiracy theory. It's well documented. The government will tell you they can control the weather. But I mean,
I'm not sure they can have you on a beach one day and building a snowman the next.
You haven't been to Tennessee.
Oh yeah,
they have it too. We just had it.
Say, Ian, you've got a point there, Michael. Ian lives in Scotland. It is like that. You get every season in every day.
Yeah.
It's like that here too.
I think they've taken COVID like the lockdown Scotland after 3,000 deaths. Now this is where the respect comes into it, because I was posting about this and I'm like, you're going to offend people, because there's ultimately you're going to run into someone on social media that, oh, my dad died and all, my granny died and all that. You're a mean person, and it's not what I'm saying. Whenever I get into conspiracy theories, when you talk about a 9/11 or a Sandy Hook or a Las Vegas shooting, like when there's deaths at it's very tough. It's hard because I don't wish death on anyone. But ultimately, how can you justify locking down a country, stopping people from being able to make money, being able to put food in the table, over 3,000 deaths over like whatever months? I think it's, they've used this, and like Hillary Clinton once said, and that's don't let a crisis go to waste. Don't let a good crisis go to waste. And I think they've capitalized, whether it came from a bat in China or it was made in a lab or whatever.
They had an aquatic bat.
They've capitalized.
Come on, they had an aquatic bat that was swimming just outside the lab in Wuhan. Come on, we know this is true, and everyone ate it. Do you think it would be a bad thing if they stopped everyone driving for a day, Ian?
I think it's what they want, but it's not. I mean,
only ask
for
you
the
that.
economy.
No, because it's a freedom.
Only ask you that question so I could do this.
How dare you?
I just wanted to play that one. That's the only reason. I'm not interested in your answer.
Yeah, I think if you turn the gain down on your mic, your sound will be a lot better.
Me?
Yeah.
Gain.
I don't know. Maybe I'm too close. Maybe I'm too close to the mic.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So like, I know with that mic, you don't have to have the gain up at all, really.
Oh,
But
well,
if you turn it
this.
down,
You need the. This is. I've got a preamp and everything to run this. Isn't this? You have to have the gain up on this, for sure. I can turn the level down.
as far as the. Oh, go ahead.
I'm just going to say we're almost at the 30 mark. So, okay,
Do
Michael.
you want to do the wrap up, Ken, and we'll go around the room. We'll ask everyone their final thoughts.
Let's start with Michael because he wanted to say something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just gonna say with the politics, I think it was politicized because of it being an election year. I think it would have been politicized regardless, but I think it was really focused on because of the election year. And I think that would have come from both sides. That's not, the Democrats just happened to be on the leading side this time, but it would have gone both ways, right? I also think that you had Trump in office where I wouldn't have ever blamed any president. It doesn't matter if it was Biden, Obama, Trump for that first year in COVID, because there were so many unknowns. Who knew how to handle the pandemic, right? No one knew how to handle the pandemic. But when you go back and Pew Research did a study on it, that was a lot of the driver and why people voted against Trump was because of his handling of COVID. We'll come to find out 3 times more people died in 2021 when the vaccine was available the entire year from COVID than they did in 2020. So it shouldn't have been a political thing, but it was a political thing. And that I think if they didn't make it political and no one even ever thought it was political, Trump would probably still be president, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I truly believe that because there wasn't enough that Biden really offered other than the potential that he would handle COVID better.
Mm-hmm.
So, I'd say keep that in mind for sure. I had something else I was going to say. I just forgot what it was, but yeah, that's kind of how I think about that. As far as politicizing things and why it was done certain ways. And I do think Trump would still be president. Absolutely.
What would your final message be, Michael, before you go off to people in the world that, in any advice or anything like that about mask mandates, vaccines, anything like, what would you say?
It should be left up to you. Look, if you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. If you want to go get a vaccine, go get a vaccine. If you don't. All right. I don't think it should be left up to the government to decide. And I don't think that it's not necessarily right that businesses will turn people away for not having the vaccine. But at the same time, if it's a private business, they own the property, they own the business, and they can do what they want, right? I know what I was going to say. Going back to, the last real big thing like this would have been the Spanish flu in the 1900s. People want to often compare, well, back then they made people wear masks and stuff. The difference between the Spanish flu and COVID is COVID was affecting only really the elderly. the Spanish flu was killing military-age men, and we were in the height of World War I when they needed those bodies. So, it was killing like the people that was really most important at that time. That was, offering a very substantial security threat. And you also look at, 25% or something of England's population between the ages of 18 and like 30 something died in that span of time, not just from the virus, but from the war. So I think that's probably why certain restrictions were put on at that point in time that may not have been very relevant now. So it's not comparing apples to apples when you go back and do that. And I just figured I'd point that out as well. There's a big difference.
Michael, did you hear earlier on when we was talking about, was it the Spanish flu we was talking about, that Fauci had actually blamed the mask for a lot of the deaths, though?
It could have been. I think Bob made a good point on the 8 hour, how people are wearing them 8 hours a day at their work. I've seen people walking in the store and they got stuff all over the mask. Yeah. And it's gross. And I think you do get sick because if you're out around people, think about this, if it's blocking COVID from getting in, then COVID's on the outside of the mask anyway, right? Theoretically. And you're sitting there touching that, wearing the same mask, you're still going to get it. I don't think the mask really prevents a lot. I think, it probably did more harm than good. Yeah.
Okay. And we'll move to Matt for your final thoughts.
Well, what on the whole thing? Masks? What do you want me to talk about?
Just whatever. the whole thing. Yeah.
Whatever.
So basically, I kind of agree with what Michael's just said there. It's up to the individual. I think it's quite a shame, really. Like, and people at work that I work with feel the same now. They've almost got like buyer's remorse with their vaccines. Really, they're a bit worried now. They've seen stuff for themselves happening, but they feel like, I think some of them are about a year out from having them, maybe, so that they probably feel like they're all right or whatever. But I think it's quite a shame that people like Michael have had to have a vaccine just to enter a supposedly free country to see his girlfriend. It's ridiculous. Like that for that. And as I said earlier on, I would completely understand it when people compare it yellow fever and whatnot. And I'll just say this: if you got 4 yellow fever vaccines in a year and then got yellow fever, you'd be pissed off, wouldn't you?
Yeah, that's a good point.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the vaccines were taken because, at first, like I read this out in my Podbean Live the other night. I did the media lies, and I was like, some of the things that we said back before the vaccines that were considered conspiracy theory or hoax or, are now fact. If you take these vaccines, you won't get it. That's now not a truth. If you take the vaccine, you won't be able to die from it. There are people dying. So it's all like, anyway, so we'll go to Solid for your final thoughts.
Again, everybody mind their own business. You do you. I'll do me. I personally think masks work if they're worn the right way. If they're changed, I have, and one reason why I don't wear cloths is because you have to wash them every single day. You have to, so, I'm not wearing the same mask, 8 hours, I know to change it, whatever, but that's just me. During the Spanish flu, I do know that the masks were made mostly of gauze, which was not a good material for a mask. But it's also been said that had masks been around during the bubonic plague, then, maybe millions of people would have been saved as opposed to dying. So, and then I don't know. I just think that masks work. In terms of the vaccines, if you want to get it, get it. But please don't, if you're someone who you're not getting it, please don't run up to someone who has it and call them names, whatever. If you're someone who has it, please don't run up to somebody and call them names, whatever, because it's not nice, okay? So, and we all just play in the same sandbox together.
Okay. For me, like I always say, my main message is have critical thought, think about it, don't just rush into it, don't just trust the narrative. And even that phrase, trust the science. Like I know that can be quite, because I'm not a scientist. Like, I mean, if we had a doctor on here that was pro-mask, pro-vaccine, I'm sure he could school me. But ultimately, like the stuff that's out there, like that's why I love listening to Matt and his rants on it, because it's you listen to the news and things just don't add up. Things, and I think it's only because these are men with suit and tie that are telling you through a TV screen, and you think they've got the authority, and they're, I've said this a lot on my show. It's almost as if all they do, and they do this, where they'll post an article and they'll just write "says expert" or "says scientist" or "scientists found," and then it's like, who are these scientists? So that whole phrase "trust the scientists" came popular in the last few years. I don't trust any science. I'll trust, and even, and it's a good job we don't, because there's things that we would have done, even just 10 years ago that we no longer do. So
no, that's right. Can I just quickly, I know it's your final thought, just quick before I forget something here. You just said there's two things that people keep saying over and over again that probably annoy me more than anything. And one of them is trust the science. Like, somewhere, if you don't trust the science, you're an idiot. And then the next thing,
they're also saying trust the science when they allow a transsexual to go compete against women too.
Exactly that.
Same people.
But yeah, they are the same people. And then in 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks you say, hang on a minute, 2 weeks ago it was this, and they say science is always evolving. So when should I trust it then? So 2 weeks ago you told me to trust this, now you're telling me no, you shouldn't have trusted that because it's never set. Like, it's changing all the time. Well, then what's the point in trusting it ever then? Like, when someone's telling me originally masks don't work, and then they're telling me 2 weeks later masks do work, which science should I trust? What changed? Because the virus size, particle size didn't change. So what test were you doing 2 weeks ago that you're now not doing, that you've decided that this is effective? So what science should I trust?
Well said. And so critical thought, and most importantly, I think the message a good one to push is standing together. And I know there's going to be people that, I mean, on both sides, that are going to say, like, if an unvaccinated person dies, well, it's their own fault, they should have took the vaccine. And then there's going to be people, saying, well, you were warned. But that's not, I don't like that, because it's not a good thing. So I would hope that people would stand together, because like I said earlier in the show, it might be okay for you this time. You might be on board with the mandates, the masks, and the vaccines, but maybe 10 years down the line, 5 years down the line, there might be something that you're against, and you'll be looking at us to support you. So that's all I'm going to say on that. So it's been a great show. I'd like to thank Matt from Whatkast for joining us with your sounds. And
hold on, Matt. Before we go, let's let Whatkast and Michael plug their podcast.
Yeah, I was going to go to them. Yeah. Okay. So Matt, would you like to tell the listeners again where they can find you?
Whatkast, at Whatkast. You see it down there. I don't know if you can see it or only you guys can see it, but it's at Whatkast and any of the social medias. We go out every Sunday, early AM UK time, so that'll probably be middle of the night in America. I'm not sure, something like that. But yeah, we do. We talk about conspiracy theories. We're not as far as Ian's concerned a conspiracy theorist, but we do discuss them, and the merits of them or not. We also talk about like unexplained mysteries, and even do true crime sometimes. And sometimes we just do random shit, like we just talk about a TV show if we want to take the piss out of it or something like that, and we just have a laugh, really. But yeah, and also do the daily. Sometimes we go midweek as well, and also do the daily what, which I don't do that often anymore. Oh, and also we've got a Patreon, so www.patreon.com/Whatkast for stuff. Actually, while I'm mentioning the Patreon, I got a warning from Patreon the other day telling me about my content. So I thought it was a free, because you're behind a paywall. I thought you was fine on Patreon.
Oh, okay.
Patreon are also censored. So.
Oh, gee. Okay, and Michael, thanks for joining us tonight. It was a pleasant surprise. Yeah, tell the listener about your show.
Yeah, it's just real conservative talk, and Lisa's actually hosting the show on Tuesday. Should be a good topic. I think she's picked a very good one.
Hot.
So, and I know it's one that we probably have some different views on, so it should definitely be a good show. So be sure to check in to that one. It's 6 p.m. Central, which would be 4 p.m.
4 p.m. Pacific.
Yeah, Pacific. Yep. I don't know what that is in UK time, so you have to figure that one out.
And Solid, my co-host. Yeah, on you go.
I have my turn to talk Monday through Thursday, 1 p.m. Pacific time, and I talk about just different stuff. So issues that some people don't like to talk about. But I'm really looking forward to doing Michael's show, because going on a show with mostly conservative people and mostly conservative men, I am looking forward to it. I am looking forward to holding my own, and I know it's going to be a hot topic. So,
Little did you know, I have Candace Owens joining us.
okay.
I'm just saying.
And on that note, Michael, we may not be speaking anymore.
I'm just kidding.
But if you want me to bring Hillary, I will. So,
And
Hillary.
back to you.
Yeah, so and I'm Baramu podcast pretty much everywhere. And this week I actually started my own Podbean live show that went well, in my opinion. I know the audio with a bit of technical difficulties there, and the file wouldn't play, but I've managed to do that. I ripped the audio and I've posted up there, so it just gives me that. I'm not the best at the live stuff, especially on my own. It's good when I've got people to talk to and back and forth, but the Podbean stuff is something I want to get into. And I know Whatkast, you started a live the other day, so it's great to have more people in the Podbean community that we can support and listen to their shows and things. So again, thanks everyone for joining. Thanks for the people in the chat, the questions, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time for another installment of the Friendly Differences podcast. Thanks, guys.
Bye.